One of my main philosophies of life that I'm pursuing is when you actually invest professionally and utilize your gifts, you will actually enjoy what you're doing more. You'll no longer be pursuing retirement. You'll be pursuing getting better at your gifting, stewarding your gifts, stewarding your money, stewarding your time, serving others, impacting others, solving problems with what you've been given. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of my podcast. I'm Matt Chenard. This is my second take, so I don't know why I stumbled there, but we're going to continue going because that's the beauty about long form content, whether that's podcast or YouTube. It's more real. Today, I want to talk about currencies, and I want to talk about what I would say is the most valuable currency that people really undervalue. So when we think of currency, we think of money predominantly. At least that's what I've noticed. And I would say that is not our most valuable currency. I see three different currencies: time, money, and energy. Okay, so you can't create more time. You can create more energy in time by how you take care of your mind, body, and spirit. You can be more productive with your time. And you can create money based on how you invest your time. But one of the things that I've noticed is we pursue and we chase financial gain at the sacrifice of time. Or we'll think that we need to invest a lot of time and at the cost and the sacrifice of, let's say, physical fitness, not maybe knowingly, but physical fitness, at mental health, at relational costs, right, with your family, with friends, to reach this milestone, to reach this certain amount of financial wealth and security that you think will give you security and happiness. So I don't disagree that there's a aspect of relief if you have a certain amount of money. And I don't think it's wrong to make money. I don't think it's wrong to profit on things that you create, given that they're morally right and they're actually adding value in a service. I think what happens is when we start to attribute that to our identity, to our significance, and we start to worship money. So for those that don't know, I'm a Christian. I'm a Christ follower. I want to apprentice under Jesus and become more like Jesus. And that is warned about in the Bible quite a bit. Greed, lust over money, and creating it as a God in your life. Now, because when you take money by itself, it doesn't actually have value. The value it has is what we place on it. There's no intrinsic value to money. It's if, hey, I see this product, let's say in the marketplace, I see this product as worth this much, and the person selling it says, I see it as worth this much. We come to agreement. So that's what we said that money is valued at in that transaction. So if we actually think about what money is, it can give you power, right? It can give you influence. And we have dominion of this earth. It's not wrong to have money. It's not wrong to have security, but it's when you think that you're going to have security, peace, happiness as a byproduct of money that you get into a dangerous spot. So going back to what I was saying, time, relationships, deepening relationships, intimacy, that's what's important. And I think we oftentimes, especially high performers, high achievers, we will pursue more money thinking that's going to give us more time. Hey, at a certain point, you probably could buy back your time, but when is that going to happen? If you don't proactively think, create systems, balance out priorities, how are you going to then spend time, that limited resource that you have, in what actually matters today? Because if you're projecting out in the future and saying, I will have more time when I do this, this, and this, but what about today? This is a big mindset shift I've had. And one of my main philosophies of life that I'm pursuing is when you actually invest professionally and utilize your gifts, you will actually enjoy what you're doing more. You'll no longer be pursuing retirement. You'll be pursuing getting better at your gifting, stewarding your gifts, stewarding your money, stewarding your time, serving others, impacting others, solving problems with what you've been given, which is essentially what business is. You're solving problems with your product or service, helping others. So if you've naturally been gifted something, you should steward that. You should invest more into that. And Maybe at the start, if you're working a job or you're an entrepreneur, you might not see an instant payout of that, right? People might not see the value at first, but that's okay because you're not just in it for the exchange, the monetary exchange. You're in it for that you really enjoy it. And can you imagine that if, let's say, you spent 40, because you don't want to retire when you do this, right? Because you really love it, 40, 50, 60 years in investigating more of what you're gifted at and nurturing that. Can you imagine the exponential return on that in the future, monetarily, with your finances? And that's not even the pursuit, but it's going to follow eventually because the quicker you can solve bigger problems, the more you're valued in the marketplace, in that exchange. So if you're already gifted with something and it comes naturally to you, what if you steward that and nurture that? That's just going to get better and better with time, and that value is going to the value is going to follow. But the great thing about that is that you're not trying to escape your work with spending time and money on things that don't actually matter in the end. You're not going to be searching out big, grand adventures or vacations simply to escape your work life. You're not going to be spending a lot of money on a house simply because it's an escape from work. And that, I'm not to say you can't go on grand adventures and have a big, nice house, but you're doing it for different reasons. It's a byproduct of who you are instead of it being the focus of who you are. You're not finding your identity in the things you've accumulated or the success or the money you have or security you have. It becomes a byproduct of who you are naturally. And then you hold these things with more of an open hand because you know that, hey, I'm okay if these things are gone because I am nurturing and stewarding. I'm in a vocation I really enjoy. Okay. So then how do you measure your time, what your time is worth? So if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see this. If not, I'll try to explain it the best of my abilities. So I created something called the Schedule Optimizer. And part of that Schedule Optimizer is that it helps you calculate what your business or investments, if they're a good business or investment, and then it'll calculate what your time is actually worth. So let's say in my one business, like this is just hypothetical, I'm going to throw some numbers out there. It's grossing monthly $30,000. The profit is 60%, which means as the owner, I'm benefiting $18,000 a month from that business. Now let's say I work 40 hours, active hours to make that money. My time is worth $450. Now let's take another business as an example. Let's say I'm grossing $4,000 and the profit is 100%, so $4,000, but I'm spending 100 hours a month to make that. So my time is actually worth $40 an hour with that. So I'm going to do another example. So let's say I'm making $4,000 a month, but I'm working 20 hours to make that. That's 100% profit. My time is actually worth $200 an hour. So averaged out, in this example, I work 160 hours. There's $26,000 in profit, and my time is worth $162 an hour in this example. Now, if I look at the third investment, my time is worth $200. Business one is making more money, but I'm actually spending less time and making more money with that time in that business number three. So if I looked at that, I would say that probably gives me more lifestyle wealth, more time wealth, because I'm only working 20 hours to make $4,000. That means my time is worth $200 in there. So once you start, it becomes less than about how much money you're making overall and more about, does this align with how I want to spend my time? Does this align? Does this afford me to spend more time with my kids? Does this afford me to go on date nights? Does this afford me to go on weekend retreats with my spouse? Whatever else time wealth means to you, does it equate to that? And then is it something that you really enjoy doing? Is it using your giftings? Is it using your talents? When you go to work or you go to your business, Do you dread it? Do you have less energy when you get home? Or do you feel like you actually gain energy because you're in your sweet spot? I truly believe, and I've seen it with clients, I've seen it with myself, I truly believe you can gain energy from your work. You can thrive in your job. Or let's say you're a business leader and you have a team, you have a staff. If you actually take time to investigate and use something like the 6 Working Genius personality test, which I really enjoy using for people I work with, and you say, hey, on my team, this group or this person is gifted here. They are frustrated here too. This person's gifted here, but they're frustrated there too. If you slowly start to move people around, and you don't have to change the titles, you can say change subtasks or sub roles of that. If you slowly start to move them around in zones, their zones of genius, they're going to thrive in work. They're actually want to do more because they really enjoy it. It's not just about the salary. That is important, right? You want to help them afford things they want to do in their personal life too. But I truly believe that if you help put people in the right seats in their geniuses, their God given talents, and use that and steward that, they're going to thrive and they're really going to enjoy it. And that's going to create longevity in your team too. Just like there's going to create longevity for you as a business owner. So for myself, I've become more and more curious about this and trying to do this for myself, my teams over the years, and my clients. I enjoy creating ideas. I enjoy ideating, dreaming, and then creating solutions for these ideas. 6 Working Genius, my working geniuses are wonder and invention, discernment and galvanization, and then tenacity enablement. So in that order. So wonder and invention are my geniuses. Jaleesa, my wife, hers are enablement and tenacity. If I go up to Jaleesa and I say, can you sit in the room for the next hour and talk about ideas with me? Or can you go for a walk and come up with some new ideas for this business? She would look at me with a blank stare and say, no, thank you. I don't want to do that. If she came up to me and said, Matt, there are 10 different tasks that need to get done today to get this over the finish line, I would try, but then I would just find myself dreaming and ideating with that. And for a long time, without knowing that people are created differently and gifted differently, I would feel bad about that. And same thing for her. And you can even start to feel resentful to other people if you don't understand this. But if I know that about Jaleesa and I say, hey, can you, like, if I get things to a certain point, give it a checkbox and give it a date, can you get that done? Yes. That's much different than me coming up to her and saying, I have this big dream, this big idea. What do you think about that? Or can we do this? That is overwhelming to her. And vice versa. If she doesn't see my genius as something God's given me and doesn't help me steward that, it can become a form of frustration. But once you understand this as a team in the family and as a team in the business, you can really start to nurture other people's giftings, push them into that, help them do that. And can you imagine that over the long term? Instead of feeling bad about these things, or instead of trying to do a role or a task or take a job because it has this number behind it, this metric point, but it's actually robbing your life and it's stealing from your soul, is that worth it? Is it worth it having a high paying job or a high paying business, but not having energy and feeling frustrated and having a short fuse around your family because you're drained, because it's taking life from you? And I understand that you can get to a point where you have golden handcuffs on, where you've kind of built a lifestyle around this, where you're forced to make a certain amount of money. And it's going to be very, very difficult to reverse engineer that and do something you love. But I challenge you to just investigate slowly, to do something on the side. If you enjoy talking to people, go for coffee with someone once a week and ask them questions, right? Really start to nurture these things. And over time, it'll grow and grow and grow. 20% of your efforts will produce 80% of the results. So if you think about that, if you start to nurture that thing 5% of your week, over time you get to that 20%, and eventually that value will follow. You can leave whatever job you're at, or you can start a new business, or you can investigate more roles in the business you're in. So EHR, that's the main point with this, is actually measure what the value of your time is. It's not just about the financial part. It's not just about how much money you're making a month. It's not just about how much revenue your business is making. If it's stealing from your time, if your time is only worth $15 an hour, but your business is making $30,000 a month, is it worth it? So start to think, how do I do this? And that's what I'm going to be doing on this podcast. And then get on my email list if you're interested. Send me an email at me@mattchenard.com and I can get you on the email list. I send a weekly call to weekly deposit. I send it weekly. I also have other emails going out consistently 2 or 3 times a week that I'm hoping to provide you value. That if you follow these episodes on YouTube or the podcast or follow my email list, you could do this yourself for free. If you want more in-depth help and you want to do this quicker, head to show notes here on YouTube or on the podcast and head to my website and book a free strategy call. I offer a free 15-minute strategy call for people to help them pinpoint where they're struggling and then help them take action on what's going to get them there quicker. If you found this beneficial, please share it with a friend. Subscribe if you haven't already. Give a 5-star review. It really helps me reach more people. Appreciate you all. See you next time.